And a little bit about his history again. He's a veteran, and he does a lot of things, but I can't even remember that right now. But we're going to talk about what he does in real estate, how he got started. These are the different points Shawn's going to cover. I really like when he went over the story about 83 cents. I thought that was very, I could see how something like that will change your life, 83 cents. So without further ado, Mr. Carrington, the stage.
All right. We was talking yesterday, I said I was gonna run out slides in the middle of the floor. But all right, starting off again, I think I got a chance to speak to everybody already, I guess once or twice. Thank you once again for coming out. I appreciate it. I know, like I said earlier, we could be doing so many things on Saturday, so definitely appreciate it. My name is Shawn Carrington, like Big said. Just to kind of wrap up real quick in this 30-minute presentation, I always like to bring it in a perspective. I tell people all the time, especially when it comes to real estate, this is probably 20 years in the making for me. So the journey was a journey. That's exactly what it was. So a lot of times people try to look at me now, but instead of looking at where I started, so I always try to take people back real quick. But I'm a native of Philadelphia. Go Eagles! So I don't know if we have any Eagles fans in here, but
you are Panthers and Hornets Nation.
Hornets Nation.
Let's bring that back over here.
Green Bay.
Let's wrap this up.
Chicago Bears. I don't even know a single player.
We are in Panther and Hornets Nation.
Okay.
Everybody.
It's not a good start.
Not a good start. I agree. But I was really hyped up after the Super Bowl, just to kind of talk about that, because I know Philadelphia, we needed that for the city. The city has a lot of hurdles to overcome, but I think that Super Bowl really kind of gave the city some life. So that was a good look. All right, I'm 46, married, children, have grandchildren. Was in the Army 24 years. Everything wasn't great, but I had a lot of good times. Got a chance to see the world in the military, which I really talk a lot about the Army. I think it kind of helped me. Just to kind of go back from the beginning, I think growing up in Philadelphia, we moved down to Sanford, North Carolina. Anybody familiar with North Carolina or Sanford? Sanford, North Carolina, small town. But one of the things was really it was a lot different than what I was used to up north. So things were slower. People were kind of in their routines. And that wasn't me. I think so. So of course I was thinking a little different. At that time. But I wanted to do something with my life. I just didn't know what it was during that time. Most people in my family were going to work, come home, going to work, come home, going to work, come home, die. And then, I didn't want that same type of road. I didn't want that same game plan for my life. So signed up for I think a community college when I graduated school. During that time, school wasn't for me. At least I thought it was. Well, at least I thought it wasn't. So I wanted to change. Joined the military. Went to Germany. The rest was history. I think kind of opened my eyes I think being exposed to another country, another culture, different people, different way of life, all that type of stuff. I guess kind of changed my game plan in my head. But I still was thinking, okay, where do I see myself? I'm a strategic guy, so I always game plan 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And I always talk to people during your 20s, that's your grind time. You really got to grind it out during your 20s. Your 30s, you kind of fine tune what you grind. Your 40s, you should be kind of on cruise control based on your grind time. So I always share that with people because I think that's how we got play out our lives and stuff like that. Be strategic with our lives. So so during that time, raising a family, single dad was a single dad, and then when I met my wife, she was a single mom. So we kind of came together, blended family. Everybody remember the Brady Bunch back in the day. So I call this a Grady Bunch. What I'm saying? So it was a little different, but we came together, kind of made it happen. Raised the kids, got them all out the house. So my plan was, based on the ages of my kids and everything, I said when I retired the Army, I wanted my daughter was the youngest, so I wanted her to be leaving out of the home, but I didn't really want to work. after I retired out I said, so what do I need to do? So, you know, what I was telling Big, you know, about the 83%, you know, back in, I want to say 99, I think it was, maybe beginning of 2000, I was in the grocery store with the family. You know, we did all the groceries. I was really good when it came to budgeting my bank account and stuff like that, so tracking money and all that kind of stuff. So we finished paying for the groceries. You know, I was balancing my checkbook, and I looked, and I had 83 cents left. I couldn't even explain the feeling, you know, that I had, you know, like 83 cents, because I was sitting there thinking, man, I can't even go to the ATM machine, you know, with this 83 cents. I can't withdraw it. I can't even pay the monthly fees, you know. Then I had like another 14 days or maybe 10 days before the next pay period. So all kinds of stuff was going through my head. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? But what I didn't want was for me to continue on that same path. So I was like, I gotta do something different. So I gotta bring in some more income. So first, I read a book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I don't know if anybody read that book. Rich Dad Poor Dad really changed my whole thought process, you know, when it came to everything. So I knew that I couldn't rely on just one income, because, you know, that it kind of had my destiny, you know, with that one income. So I was like, man, so I needed to, you know, create multiple streams of income. So I started saving up a little money, you know, and during that time, I was actually trying all types of business. Everybody for Amway. I did Amway for a little bit. I did a company called ACN. Did a whole bunch of other little stuff, you know. But I always say, and that really just, on my journey, kind of gave me a lot of, you know, things to learn, things to how to network, how to talk with people, how to go out there and just kind of, you know, create different streams of income. But it wasn't for me. You know, and I always tell people, I say, sometimes you got to figure out what is your vehicle of success. You know, what is it for you? So, and that takes some soul searching sometimes. Sometimes we got to sit back and just think, you know, what is it, you know, what do I want to do, you know? So as I tried all this stuff, I was saving a little money, and then going to a seminar. Carrington Sheets. He was you know, the big no money down. I don't know if anybody familiar with that. No money down. I think it was kind of like late 90s. Everybody was buying up the program and stuff like that. So I'm studying the program, reading it. I was like, man, how is this guy doing it? You know, then had like a whole portfolio full of properties and stuff like that. So I'm thinking like, man, this is not for me. But you know, little did I know, you know, really, you know, throughout my whole journey, it was changing my mindset on looking at how to actually start investing in real estate. So I put together a strategy for myself. I said, you know what, I can do it. Let me buy my first property. You know, bought the first property. I would create the strategy was I wanted to stay within 75,000 or below, and that's what I was telling myself, because I said that's if I had to make that payment, I was comfortable with doing a payment of 75,000 or below. You know, of course, I wanted it to be 3 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms was the reason I said 3 bedrooms, because I think that was the average family size. If they were looking for a home, it was easy for me to rent it out with 3 bedrooms. I wanted 2 baths, because I think if they had boys and girls, you need at least multiple baths, you know, for the house. So it just, of course, made it easier to rent the house out. So this is all the stuff that was going in my head. So bam, when I bought that first property, I started seeing things differently. You know, that first step was always the hardest. You know, getting to that first step and making that first move was always the hardest, and that's what I see with everything. So when I bought that, yes.
So, I'm sorry, but so a question I have is, when you bought that first property, you said that you were buying it thinking about renting it. So you were renting at the time, and then you bought a property that you used as a rental?
Yes,
first?
yes. Actually, I was living on base housing.
Okay.
So I didn't own a property at the time when I bought that first property. And that was a good point, though, because I think a lot of times people think we'll be a homeowner first before we start investing in real estate.
So did you buy it as an investor or as an owner occupant?
As an investor. Okay. As an investor. And during that time, it was a little different because there was a lot of foreclosures going on. So I took advantage.
What year was that?
It was a foreclosure. This was late 99, 2000.
Yeah.
Yep, a lot of foreclosures. So a lot of times, I don't know if anybody remembers during the time, but you know, banks were willing to kind of make some deals. You know, if you presented, you know, the right terms. Now, credit is a big deal. Credit is a big deal. You know, and I talk a lot about credit because I think sometimes people forget how important, you know, having good credit is. You know, so I didn't have a lot of money, but I had good credit. So these banks were willing to work with me because of my credit. You know, and once I seen that, I was like, man, let me keep this. If I keep my credit score around 800, then now they're coming for me versus me trying to hunt them down. You know, so but when I bought that property, I really only had to pay probably, I think it was like 3% or something like that, which equated to like 4,600, I think, to get the property, which I had in the savings account, luckily. But that was during the time of foreclosures. Now I would share that with people because that time was a little different. So now, it's still, real estate investing is still, a great tool for wealth, for building wealth, but it's different strategies, no money down. When the no money down came about, I was thinking, you just had to, you didn't have to pay anything. But really, what it was about OPM. Anybody familiar with OPM? Other people's money. You know what I'm saying? Other people's money. So I started thinking, okay, I gotta start thinking like the banks. The banks, they take our money and they invest it and do all kind of stuff. I gotta do the same thing. So what I started doing, okay, well, let me get loans or credit or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So they start slinging all kinds of credit cards at me. But I kept the stuff and I was using that to buy other properties. So throughout my military career, what I was doing every year, I was buying a property. Now this is a long-term strategy when it comes to real estate investing. I tell people, I say you got to think long-term. So if you're looking at, okay, where do I see myself in 15 years, 20 years, then you need to create that strategy of what you want to, how you want to accomplish, what your financial goals and stuff like that. So that's what I started doing, buying a property, year after year, year after year.
And all of these were investor loans, not owner occupants.
Correct. Besides, one was owner occupant, and I used my VA for that.
Okay.
But then it turned into investor loan after that. So
on the details of this first deal,
Mhm.
how did that come about? Let's talk about how that first deal came, everything that you went through, what you made from the monthly payment,
Breakdown.
the breakdown of that
Breakdown.
first deal.
Okay. Like I said, I wanted to stay around the $75,000 range. That made the payment around, I think it was like $469, something like that, $465.
That was just PNI or PITI?
PITI. So of course the rent rate for that area was about $725, $750. So in my head, I already automatically knew, bam, I was gonna have a little cash flow on that. Sometimes it's not a lot. Sometimes it could be $50 cash flow. Sometimes it could be $100 cash flow. Sometimes this one just ended up being about $200 cash flow. And sometimes, I tell people sometimes that don't seem like a lot, but if you got multiple properties and this cash flow of $200, it adds up. It's not all the time you wanna, win the lottery, on one property. So sometimes you gotta think like, hey, if I just build multiple properties and I get, $200 cash flow on each one, then that's gonna be a nice little portfolio. But that's what it was. It was $75,000. The payment was like $469. I ended up renting it out for like $750. And during that time, I was using a property management company, and they were taking their 10% cut. So it was about $75 I was paying them every month. But I was still clearing about $200 a month on that first property. So when that happened, I started seeing myself being able to do it. I was like, man, this is something I can do. So every property I was doing, I said I wanted to at least clear at least about $200. Not knowing. This is when some of the different books I read, not knowing that at the time that I was still holding myself down because I was setting my sights at that 75,000 when I could have went 300,000, 400,000 or whatever. Because I was really trapping myself by lowering my threshold. So because the system was the same, the process was the same. The only thing that was different was the numbers and the bottom line. But I share that because I think that's what we do sometimes. We hold ourselves, say, hey, no, we can't do it, or I can't do it, or I can't afford it. I try to flip that. No, we can do it. We just, it's a matter of, we got to figure out how to make it happen. And that's kind of, what happened when I started building my portfolio. So I say a few properties down, that's when I started looking at 200, 250, 300, same deal, renting them out. Now I'm clearing, probably 500 property, maybe 600 on some of them, which is something totally I would have never thought, but I think real estate is like one of the best investments you can do,
What's the time frame you use between purchases?
On
Average.
On average, I tried to do, my goal was to do one a year, so it was probably like maybe 8-9 months for some. But of course it all, like I said, it depends on what you go after. Single families was my niche, and I was more comfortable with single families, and to this day I still invest in single family homes. But of course you're gonna hear a lot about multifamilies, you're gonna hear commercial stuff, so it just depends on your niche. It depends on what it is you want to do. But the bottom line, I always tell people, I said, look, first you just gotta figure out, okay, what is your end goal? How much do you want to bring in per month? Is it to supplement your job? Is it to supplement when you finish your job? You want to retire? What is it? What I'm saying? Because once we start with that, then now I know how many properties I need to meet that goal. So, and I say that because I think that's what we do sometimes. Sometimes we'll go out and do a whole bunch of stuff, but it doesn't meet our goal because we didn't start with our goal in mind. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought you had a question. Okay.
Not
Like a
yet.
silent
I do, but not
silent
yet.
auction.
Okay. Yeah. So for everybody kind of understand where I'm going. I know I'm talking a little fast.
My question is, were they charging like standard property management firms where they might charge 10 up to 15-20% of the rent depending on what they do?
Mm-hmm.
How do you still use those property management firms?
No, and the standard is 10%. No matter where you go, most property management companies is 10% of the rent. Now, I chose not to use those management companies anymore just because of my own personal thing. I'm more of a hands-on type of person. So, and like I said, I'm a strategic guy. So, all these states where I was buying these properties, I was able to put together teams, contractors, and I said, hey, you're gonna be my lead contractor, so I want you to be in charge of all the maintenance teams, whatever HVAC guys I need, plumbers, whatever. I want you to have to be the go-to person. So with these management companies, it was more business for them. It wasn't really personal. And what I mean by that, there was like throwing tenants out, every couple of months because whatever, late fees for this, so they pay us a late fee. I wasn't interested in that. That was the business side of it. And they were in the business to make them money, not necessarily to keep tenants in my homes. So the strategy wasn't working. So I chose to fire the management companies, and I manage everything myself. And that's why I created S.LLC, which is a real estate investment property management company, because I manage everything myself now. So now all the tenants pay directly to me. Any issues come up, they contact me through the websites, and then I just call whoever my handyman is for that region, and he takes care of it.
So with that being said, your current portfolio consists of how many properties across how many states?
8 properties across. I own in Florida, Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Kentucky.
And with the teams that you built, what is the average? I'm assuming you have like a retainer with them for that. Do you have to pay them monthly, or is it as needed?
As needed.
Okay.
As needed. And what I did, just kind of go into a little bit more further. After you buy properties, I try not to keep it in my personal name. So you create an LLC, and then and remember what I said earlier about thinking like the banks. So now when I created these LLC, now I apply for business credit, which I'm also a business credit consultant. So, but when I apply for business credit, so now each one of those LLCs, now these companies are giving me $100,000 business credit for each one of the LLCs. So I use that, and I give my contractor, I put him on one of my business accounts. So now every time he got to go get, like, matter of fact, 2 weeks ago, I had to buy like 4 doors. He can go purchase the doors. I see it directly on my account, and I'm just paying him for labor. So it's as needed, where I'm not having to pay retainer fees for him or anything. But the key to that is nothing's coming out of my own pocket. So now my personal income is able to take care of my family, my personal expenses. My business income is able to take care of any rental properties or any business ventures that I do. So, and that's another thing that I try to share with people, is that once you start thinking like the banks, then it becomes easier. Then we end up separating, your income, separating your profits, separating, how you're gonna actually take your things every day, every month. And business credit is out there, guys. Anybody familiar with business credit? Yeah, pretty much. Yes. So a lot of people don't really know about business credit. And I was surprised at that.
So are you doing SBA or other type?
Other type.
Okay.
Other type. Yeah, you talking about small business association? Yeah, other type. When I apply, normally, and I tell people, I say you can go personally and do like call Bank of America yourself, and they'll probably give you 5,000, 8,000, whatever. But when I go through the organization I'm with, they're gonna blast it out to every type of community bank.
Can you share that organization name?
Midwest Corporate Credit.
Okay.
Yeah, Midwest Corporate Credit out of Chicago. So, yep, out of Chicago. So when I started working with them, it was a little different. So then now they blast it out to American Express, to Bank of America, to PNC, to whatever. And then all of a sudden now everybody's hey, this is what we can do, blah blah. And all I gotta do is sit back and manage and figure out what I want. So that it makes it simpler.
And would that be a soft credit pool, or they need your credit when they send that out, or is it just they have parameters that they use and they'll say something like, well, this person's credit is between this and this, they make this much a month, and then they contact you? Or is it a soft pull that goes out to all the different lenders, and then when you decide what you want to use, then they'll give you the hard pull?
A little both. The way the process is we want you to pull your credit yourself. Do a credit check total. Credit check total actually pulls all three credit bureaus. So now you know exactly what your credit score is, the medium score. And then normally business credit, they want you to be in like 720 or above with your credit.
Okay, so wait, so this corporation is pulling your personal credit, not your business credit. Do you have a risk rating and scorecard for the LLC?
Risk rating, no, didn't need it. You talking about what the
Commercial, because you're doing commercial loans, right?
Yeah.
And it's not risk rated, and there's not a.
I didn't need none of that. Yep. The only time you need any of that and Duns and Bradstreet and all that is if I'm doing government contracts and overseas stuff. Didn't need none of that. That was just.
No, I'm not saying you need it. I've not heard of commercial loans where even if they don't share it with you, those banks are not risk rating you. They're typically risk rating you when you have a scorecard, a number for your actual business.
Well, what they do is your personal credit is still your personal. You're still the personal guarantee, basically.
Right.
You're the guarantor for the business.
You're still the
owner.
guarantee for the business. Right.
So you should have one, and then your business should
As
have
your
one.
EIN, correct.
No, not the social.
not
I'm
the
saying
EIN.
the actual risk rating. Like if you're a risk rating of
Like a
7 and below,
Mm-hmm.
you're good. But when you get to the 8 and 9, you're risky from a commercial perspective. So I'm asking, does your LLC have? Are you aware of the risk rating or? Okay.
Nope, I never even got to that. Worry about the risk rating or anything like that. I never done it. And I'm sure the credit, each one of the credit agencies, they probably do that. But I never really tracked that.
And you talking about the bankruptcy risk?
I'm talking about the banks. When you have commercial loans, the banks themselves, if you have an LLC, there is a risk rating that they have assigned to you for whenever they're reviewing to renew or to increase your credit.
Well, you might have
Or
one,
something
but
like
didn't know because you never really needed.
Yeah, I
to
never
use
needed.
it at
I
all.
never really like tracked it down and tried to figure out what it was.
Have some.
Yeah,
Have some.
so-
What's mine?
Yeah, that would be a good thing.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to do. I like saying this. That's what we try to do here at the Big House, guys, because we have so many different people from various backgrounds. We can all kind of, help each other, and maybe there's something that he might not know, or that because Tracy, she works in banking, and so she knows a lot of these different things that he's talking about, as well as Terry's from that financial background, as well as Keisha.
I'm just now learning a lot. I just got into commercial credit.
Right.
And so I'm looking at a lot of business and people's portfolios when they're increasing credit lines, renewing with the sales rep.
Right.
And looking at that scoring. So that's why I just wondered if you were aware of that.
Yeah, I wasn't. I never really kind of like tracked it down to try to figure out what it was. And I'm sure they do that at risk rating, but once I was on my own game plan, I kind of roll with what I know. And I'm just to share with you, because of my military background, a lot of times, I don't believe in. Everybody heard that term, paralysis by analysis, where you spend so much time trying to figure it out and learn it out. This thing, 5-10 years don't want to buy because you're still trying to figure it out. I don't do all that. You know what I'm saying?
But that's one thing I've learned about entrepreneurs. There's some people, like I'm probably an over planner.
Yeah.
So I try to make every detail perfect before I move forward.
Yeah.
But I've learned the true entrepreneurs who are very successful just leap.
No, they take a risk.
You
They
leap,
gotta be your.
and then I
you
figured
gotta
out where I'm
risk taker.
falling. So I'm saying, and prime example, I think my second property that I bought. As soon as I purchased it, now I'm gonna look at it and make sure it's not no serious damage and stuff like that, But the power wasn't on when I did my first inspection. So when I bought it and closed, and then cut all the power on, the HVAC system was out. And I could have easily went into a different mode at that point, because that was a $5,500 bill that I didn't expect, But because my mindset was different, I was able to make it happen because I started building credit. So bam, I was able to fix it, get a brand new, get a tenant in there, and the tenant was actually paying that back. But that was because my mindset was different, So when I actually talked to some of my friends, and oh man, I ran by, it's because it's in the different thoughts, because we'll try to make sure we want to see everything, make sure everything is good, make sure everything's perfect before we, do it, and you can't do that. You can't do that because one, nothing is perfect. Nothing's going to be perfect, And I listen to a lot of Les Brown in the morning, a lot of motivational stuff when I'm walking right in the gym, And one of the things he said was, I might not get it exactly right, but he said, hold on. He said, you don't have to be great to start, but you gotta be start to be great. Something like that. You know what I'm saying?
You gotta be great to start.
Yeah. So I was like, but when I first heard it, I was like, that is so true, because a lot of times we want stuff to be perfect before we start to do stuff, but you ain't gonna never get there. It ain't gonna never be perfect, you know. And if you always wait for that magic day or the balloon popping or whatever, it's never gonna come, you know. And I think sometimes we do that, you know. And I was guilty early out because I still even beat myself up, even though I feel like I'm in a good position now. But what could I always tell myself, where could I have been at 18, 19 if I was thinking differently, you know? So, and I know this kind of, wrapping a whole, going into a whole bunch of, different details, but anybody got any questions so far or comments or?
Have you met your goal on the board?
Goal? Yes. Good question. So when I started out with that initial goal, I said, this was all part of my strategy. I said, because I knew when I retired from the military, I was going to have the military pension. So I wanted to supplement, that pension and make sure I had everything pretty much squared away. So when I met it, I was able to excel a little bit. But then that's when I was like, hey, no need to hold myself down for that. When, why be comfortable with 2 if I might can do 20 or I might can do this, or I might can do that. So then I started setting my own, some different goals, and you just keep going with it. You just keep going with it, because then you start realizing that I want to be able to be in a position to create income and not just earn income. So, and that was the difference. And that's what I got out of one of the books. I was like, man, it was just messing me up. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man, because now I can go out here and start bringing in extra money based on things that I'm good at versus, just waiting on, whatever. So yes. Yes, sir.
So I heard you mention a lot about books and different books. You started with Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember reading that book, and it wasn't so much as dealing with real estate, but it was just, it was a lot about changing your mindset. So what do you do with books now? This is a lead-on question.
Good question. I'm trying to laugh when he said that. All right, because he knows a lot about it. And, I created a book club. The book club, matter of fact, I want everybody to connect on that too. It's called 2 Steps Book Club. And the reason I created that book club was, one, coming up in high school, especially being from Philadelphia, and then even when we moved to North Carolina, it was something about, for some reason, in our neighborhoods where it was like, oh man, you ain't cool, what you reading, all this kind of blah, blah, blah. So I started, I guess, adapting to that, and, feeling like to be cool, you gotta be with this type of crowd, whatever, blah, blah. So we won't read, A lot of times people didn't know what the library was and none of that kind of stuff, but then when I read that first book, and I started realizing, man, I'm putting all kinds of information in my head that I would have never known otherwise, and so it changed my whole perspective. So then I started reading a little bit more, man. So now it's like, man, where was I? I started slacking my own self, I was like, where have I been? So I created the book club, and because I do a lot of mentoring right now, so I'm in the schools now talking about, the power of reading books, the power of changing your mind, stretching your thinking, Now I got a little different perspective when it comes to, all the higher education. I got my degree. I got a bachelor's in human resource management and a graduate certificate in leadership and nonprofits. But those degrees I knew didn't equate to me having a successful life. That was for me to get a job, not for me to live my life. You know what I'm saying? So I had to change my thought. I had to change my mindset on that and understand the purpose of those degrees. And I think sometimes in society we get caught up on some of those degrees and we think that it's going to take us to the skies, and it's not. It's not. It's a whole other thing that you got to do with your life, to get there. Whatever your goal is, everybody got different goals, So, but that was the reason I started the book club, and to go to those goals,
Before you go there, so what is the purpose of the book club? And it's called 2 Steps. What's the purpose of it?
2 steps. 2 Steps Book Club. Stretch your thinking, really. I want to stretch
your thinking. Is this for you?
Mm-hmm. To stretch your thinking, yeah. So really, we do a lot of motivational books. This month is the Black Business Secrets book by, I think, Dante Lee, I think his name is.
And what's the age of the group that you
all ranges. But my mentor, I do from 16 to 30, but it's all ranges. Because right now I got people from every state that I deal with that's reading the books. And my main purpose for it was I want everybody to kind of read the same book, and then we talk about it and blog about it, because from my experience, and I'm sure you guys probably can agree, from my experience, we can all read the same book and interpret it in 10 different ways, So I wanted to create a safe space for everybody to read a chapter, talk about their thoughts, and then we all just kind of share ideas and what we got out of it. But what we're doing is stretching our thinking and growing together. You know, that's.
Are you currently accepting youth into the program?
We're time bound.
Over that down? Okay.
30
So-
minutes exactly.
Well, hold
Can we give Shawne a hand?
Wait.
And then we can continue.
Yeah, okay.
Appreciate it. Okay, I'm sorry.
Are you currently accepting youth into the program or people into that program?
Yes, ma'am.
So